County, a place to work and play. Oh, Kentucky, Kentucky County, a place I want to stay. Its far north gate and southern trails came Walker, Boone, and Kenton too. Kentucky, she is calling, a place of history. Oh, Kentucky, Kentucky County, a place to work and play. Oh, Kentucky, Kentucky County, a place I want to stay. I'm John Stephenson. June GEIMAN and I are glad to be back off our trip across Kentucky. We traveled some 42,000 miles gathering the history of Kentucky, county by county, and its tourism attractions. We hope you will appreciate the films of the history of Kentucky by your congressional districts as much as we appreciated the opportunity of traveling through Kentucky some 42,000 miles. Thank you. Now enjoy the history of Kentucky. At this time, let me introduce to you, to give you an overview of Kentucky history, Dr. Thomas Clark.
Dr. Clark, we want to thank you for being with us.
Yeah, I'm happy to be with you.
What can you tell us? We have been to every county in Kentucky. We've collected the information about the history of each county. We've come to you, Mr. History, to help us close our documentation on Kentucky by telling us a little bit how Kentucky itself got formed.
Well, Kentucky had a bit of a nebulous beginning. This was a wide open, unexplored wilderness territory on this side of the mountains. You begin to see an opening of the door as early as the middle decades of the 18th century. By 1760, Kentucky was gradually coming into focus, and by 1770, it was pretty well explored by the long hunters that came in, and then of course that famous party, they were long hunters too, of Daniel Boone and John Finley, who came into this state. Now, contrary, I think, to popular belief, this was not a region unmarked by no trails or no landmarks. There were buffalo traces, Indian traces across the state. As you know, no major Indian tribe occupied this state. This was a borderland between the northern Indians, the Shawnees with all their associated tribes, and the southern Chickasaw, our group to the south. And there was a great deal of rivalry between them to claim this hunting ground. Now, Kentucky, you know, geographically is of a highly varied nature, highly sectionalized nature. This central cane land here, or what you know as the Bluegrass Plateau, was a very famous grazing ground. There were salt licks scattered around all over the state where animals congregated, and the skin trade, the Indian trade, was a fairly rich one that originated here. In the early records, you have stories of the long hunters pursuing both the fur trade and the skin trade, but the major emphasis was upon the skin trade itself. Then, of course, in the middle of the 18th century, the rivalry between the French and the British, and you began to having those land speculators or surveyors like Thomas Walker, Christopher Gist coming into the region, making those preliminary so-called surveys in quotation marks. From 1760 on, the British were in control of this territory. The British undertook to check population expansion in this direction in the proclamation of 1763, which they were unsuccessful in doing. After 1770, you had a population movement into this region with the establishment in 1774 and 75 of Harrodsburg, or Harrodstown, and Boonesboro, Logan's Fort, and then Bryan Station, Lexington Fort. We're standing right now almost on the ground where the Lexington Fort was located. From that time on, there was a great population movement into this region that you know as Kentucky, concentrated largely in this central bluegrass area, but population in time was to expand into other areas of the state.
What were the first counties in Kentucky?
Well, Kentucky County was the first one. in 1776. That was simply a blanket. Well, I believe back of that there was Fincastle County, but Kentucky County was simply a blanket spread of Virginia authority into this western country. Then in 1780 they were created the first three counties, Lafayette, Fayette, Lincoln, and Jefferson counties. Fayette County covered all the area north of the Kentucky River. Lincoln County, the area east of Benson's Creek, and Jefferson County, south of the Kentucky River, and west and south of Benson's Creek. Benson Creek's mouth is just opposite, about where that office plaza is in Frankfort at the present time.
Okay. During the interview, we're standing on West Main Street, which is right across from the old Fayette County Courthouse. What is the significance of this area, Dr. Clark?
Well, we're standing in a very historic spot here. Right here to my right, where this Radisson Hotel is located, is the site of the old Fort Lexington. It was built here on this town creek with trim cane all around it. They cleared the cane all around it, build a fort, and give them visibility, not to be surprised by a sneak Indian attack. Right to my right, on the corner of Main and Mill Street, is where the office of the True American stood. That was an anti-slavery paper published by Cassius M. Clay here in the very heart of Kentucky slavery, which that office was raided illegally so, in violation of the First Amendment of the Constitution. It was packed up. Later on, the courts granted Cassius M. Clay restitution, and he collected damages for it. To my back is Cheapside. Cheapside has a long and romantic history. Here within 50 feet of where we are standing was the scene of the slave auctions, where slaves were sold out of this bluegrass region to the expanding cotton belt in the south. It's also the scene of the great court day markets in which the livestock trade was carried on. This place used to be crowded with horses, cows, sheep, every kind of, all dogs, everything that people had to trade come in on court day and gather around this spot. Two, it was a great political stumping ground for politicians. I could not tell you the speakers who have lifted their voice in seeking office in this square to our back. The building immediately behind us is the fifth courthouse to stand on this spot. The first one was constructed in 1788. They were either burned or torn down because they were antiquated. The fourth courthouse contained the wonderful piece of Kentucky artistry, Woman Triumphant, by the famous artist, just a moment, I'll think of it, Joel Tanner Hart. The courthouse burned down and destroyed that wonderful piece of statuary. I had an forearm of that graceful figure, which I gave to the University of Kentucky. So far as I know, that's the only existing relic of that. Here were conducted trials, lawyers, a string of Kentucky famous lawyers, John Breckinridge, Caleb Wallace, George Nicholas, on down Henry Clay, on down through lawyers of the most famous of the Kentucky bars practiced in this courthouse across the street. That is one of its predecessors. Here it was, right after World War II, that the Army was called out, not the militia. The regular Army was called out to quell a lynch mob in the famous Leavitt trial, in which this square was seething with people with ropes and tar, threatening to lynch that Negro boy. The Army veterans brought from the battlefield of France stood off the mob, and the trial proceeded in an orderly way. It is also a square, a statuary of John Hunt Morgan's equestrian statue is over to our left. John Breckinridge's statue is here to our on Sheepside. This was the center of the business area of Lexington. Not only Lexington, but it was a kind of a commercial nerve center for all of eastern Kentucky and all of central Kentucky. Louisville, after 1820, became the major commercial city of the state.
Choosing a selection of the capital of the state, how was that done?
That's a pretty complicated issue. Of course, you would have thought they would have chosen one of the major towns in the state, like Lexington or Louisville, or Danville, for instance, or Harrodsburg, but they didn't. They went to Frankfort for various reasons, and I'm not sure that I'm entirely right about all of them, but one of the reasons, it was located near the center of Kentucky population at the time. It also was located on the river, easy access by water. The people of Frankfort supplied some materials and support for the building of a capital, and like all things, everlastingly, including the observation of the Ten Commandments in Kentucky, there's some kind of political implication involved.
Okay. Can you tell us just a little bit about yourself, besides the immense amounts of knowledge that you possess? How did you get interested in history?
I came to Kentucky in 1928 without knowing a single soul in this state. I got off the train down here on September the 14th, 1928, with 25,000 Kentucky Republicans milling around. I had never seen a Republican who wasn't a postmaster until I rode in the seat from Ashland down here with Charlie Curtis, who was running for vice president on the Hoover ticket. I came here as a student at the University of Kentucky. I was a graduate of the University of Mississippi, and I started work on my master's thesis in the field of Kentucky history, writing on the subject of trade in slaves, livestock, and hemp between this area and the lower South. And I became very much interested in the history of the state from that. And there's scarcely a day gone by in the last 60 years that somewhere or other I haven't been involved in doing something about the history of the state.
We also understand that you've written 20-plus books. Can you tell us what some of the books are about?
Well, I've published a history of Kentucky, the Exploring Kentucky, which was used a long time in the schools. I published the Kentucky in the Rivers of America series, the Rampaging Frontier, Frontier America, the Emerging South, Pills, Petticoats, and Plows, Southern Country Editor, and I've just published The Greening of the South, which has to do with reforestation and conservation of the southern land.
We were talking earlier about the changes that have been made. And when we've interviewed other people, we've asked them what changes they've seen take place. Can you tell us a little bit about the changes you've observed since you've been in Kentucky?
In the state or in the county?
In the state.
Oh, yes. Phenomenal changes. Despite all of the discussion of the educational system and the low standing in many categories of educational effort, I've seen phenomenal changes in educational endeavor. I think I've seen, although I'm no longer in the classroom, I think a much better prepared student is coming to college and universities now than in the old days. I've seen the family farm virtually on the way to disappearance. Who would have thought in 1928 that the great tobacco industry in this state would be threatened as it has been? You would be very remiss not to observe that Kentucky has made phenomenal progress in breaking the barrier of isolation, in building its highway system, and going into every part of the state. In the Clements administration, that legislation from building farm-to-market roads, building the interstate highway system, and then, of course, supplemented by the toll road system in the state, has made marked changes in Kentucky. I've also seen Kentucky fail to meet its challenges, fail to come up with what it's possible for it to do. Kentucky is still a provincial agrarian state trying desperately to just kind of ease into the 21st century, very poorly prepared to do so.
What do you think about what John's doing?
I think it's very interesting indeed. To go into all 120 counties in this state is a monumental undertaking. And he's gathered up a contemporary vignette look at the state that 50 years from now, people will turn back to these tapes and see that old historian in Lexington and all these people around the courthouses in 119 other counties and say, good God, is that where we were at that time? No, I think it's creating a very nice, interesting, and useful historical document.
I just wanted to come over here for a second to heap a little praise. It's not necessary, but I'm going to do it for this gentleman, Dr. Thomas Clark, because not only did he teach there at the University of Kentucky when I went there to UK, and I had Dr. Charles Talbert for Kentucky history, but I used your book when I taught American history in high school and Kentucky history in high school. And it was a great deal of honor that I did so. You know, I look back over my history myself, and I had people like Mrs. Hinsdale for a history teacher in the 8th grade, and you remember those people that make a mark on your life. And Dr. Clark, you've made a mark on many people's lives here in Kentucky and across the United States and world, and we're very proud of you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. You spoke of a very fine historian in Charlie Talbot. Charlie was very precise and exacting, and his book on Benjamin Logan is an excellent book. He also had a very fine volume on the history of the later years of the University of Kentucky. He was an excellent teacher, as the people in northern Kentucky will tell you.
Absolutely. It's indeed a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you, sir. It's nice being here with you, and good luck, John.
Thank you so much.
And good luck,
Thank you.
lady manager.
I'm John Stephenson. June GEIMAN and I, along with Kentucky's historians, are proud to give you the history of the 5th Congressional District. Columbia, the county seat of Adair County. Adair County's population is 15,937. Adair County has 407 square miles. Adair County is located in the 5th Congressional District and is ranked 31 in area of square miles.
I'm Mary Allender, Executive Director of the Columbia-Adair County Chamber of Commerce.
I'm Dennis Loy. I'm Deputy Judge Executive, Adair County.
Thank you.
I'm Brad Conover. I'm the manager of the Adair County Ambulance Service.
Thank you. We wanted to get some information on the formation of the county courthouse, the one that's here now, and perhaps ones that were built prior to this one.
Okay. The county was established 44th in Kentucky in 1801. Columbia was established by one of the people that established Columbia was Daniel Trabue, which was one of the original 3 proprietors of the great community, and his home is restored on the hill, the Trabue Russell House.
Okay. What about the date on this courthouse? Do you know when this one was built?
It's June the 28th, 1802.
You were telling me earlier about the universities in the area. You want to go into that?
Lindsey Wilson College was established in 1803. It was established as a training school, later became a junior college, and this year, 1986, it became Kentucky's newest 4-year college. It's run by the United Methodist Churches of Kentucky as well as its own board of directors, and we're very proud that it's one of the fastest growing colleges in Kentucky right now.
Okay. One thing we're trying to do for each county is promote tourism. What can you tell us about the county in terms of tourism? What would people want to come and visit, or what can you ask them to come and see? They're coming through.
Obviously, it's our water related activities. We're just minutes from Green River, which we have boat ramps and homespin boat dock there. We are within a matter of 30 minutes of 3 major lakes, Green River, Lake Cumberland, and Dale Holla, all of which have very fine fishing as well as water sports.
Okay. What is the major industry in Adair County?
We're ranked 5th in dairy production. Tobacco obviously is a major income source. Oshkosh B'gosh is the largest employer as far as the manufacturing goes. They employ 650 people and have 2 plants here.
Ray, what can you tell us about the artistic work done on the building here?
Well, there's a couple of faces, if you notice, on the 2 columns on this south side of the courthouse. I don't have the names. I don't know the names right offhand, although I do have those at home in some research that I've done. Those folks are told to me to be related to my family somewhere down the line. I don't know. I wouldn't want to give you a report right now without knowing that report was accurate, but I do have that at home on paper. I've been told 2 different accounts that the people that are there, that the stone was taken from their farm and it was donated to the county for the construction of the courthouse. And I've also been told that the gentleman who is up there carved in the stone, that he was a magistrate at that time that the courthouse was built. But I would have to look that up and tell you for sure. But I understand that maybe he was possibly a magistrate at the time the courthouse was built.
There are a couple of other interesting bits of history about our community. This was the home of Jane Lambton, which was Mark Twain's mother. It was also the home of Thomas E. Bramlett, the 24th governor of Kentucky. And in 1872, Jesse James robbed the Bank of Columbia, which is across the square from the courthouse, and is still in business today.
One thing I just want to promise you folks that I'm not going to do is rob the bank while I'm here in town.
Pineville, the county seat of Bell County. Population 34,304. Area square miles 361. Rank 41st. Bell County is located in the 5th Congressional District.
To my right is Mr. Mason Combs, who is a resident here, who also is a druggist here, who also is an artist. And he is going to answer some questions for us about the county. When was Bell County formed?
Bell County was formed June in the year 1867. It was part of Harlan County and was also part of Knox County prior to that time. It was named for Joshua Fry Bell, who was a great-grandson of Dr. Thomas Walker. Dr. Walker came through this area in 1750. He built a house near Barberville. The first white man that had entered this area of Kentucky. Daniel Boone came here around 1769.
Okay. What can you tell us about the courthouse?
The courthouse, in my judgment, the first courthouse was erected in the late 1800s. Pineville was incorporated either in 1881 or 1889 as a community. Pineville and Middlesboro being the 2 communities of this area that developed. The courthouse, the first one, was built in about this particular time I speak of, and then our courthouse burned in the early 1900s, and then our present courthouse was built.
Okay. Well, we were talking earlier, you had shared briefly 2 stories with me. Could you tell us about these historical pieces?
I assume you're speaking of the lineage of the people here. Mm-hmm. Most of our people came from England, from Scotland, from Ireland, and Germany. They landed, of course, on the shores of the Carolinas and in Virginia, and through the years, of course, lived in the area of the North Carolina mountains, the hills and valleys and the mountains of Tennessee, and they pushed on through here. And of course the Wilderness Road was erected just at the turn of the century, when we did get wagon roads that were through this area. But the very famous Wilderness Trail, later the Wilderness Road, comes right through the area of where you and I are standing. And this area predominantly was a hunting ground for both the Cherokee and Shawnee. And there had been the Adena mound dwellers who came from the uppermost portion of Alaska and migrated through this area years and years ago. And some of their mounds have been evidenced up until just a few years ago. Well, the economic base decidedly was timber and also the vast resource of coal. Coal, in fact, in the 1800s, both the area of Middlesboro and Pineville thrived in the whole county on coal. We had vast timber resources through Redbird and other sections of this county, and where logs were cut and they were floated down through the Kentucky River. Of course, from here they would go by way of Booneville and Beattyville and empty on over into the Kentucky. So certainly coal was the predominant industry of our area, and of course it still is. Some years are good, and of course some years are bad, but coal and timber primarily have been our bread and butter.
Okay.
At the present time, I'm serving on the Bicentennial Commission, the Commonwealth, and it's interesting to get the thoughts of people as we're getting them from all over the state. I think if we promote tourism and promote it statewide, Kentucky is so historical, and it has such a diversity of things to offer the public, and certainly children and older people too. But I think this area where we are, and where we should always remember that Kentucky, known as the dark and bloody ground, we're standing right on the threshold of where so many of these pioneers entered. So I really feel that the area such as this, and if I don't want to get off track, but I do think of the Mississippi, of where many people entered Kentucky. I think of Pittsburgh and the Ohio, where people came down on flatboat. And the other vast area besides the area of Cumberland Gap that we are only 16 miles from at the point where you and I are, was the entrance through Pound Gap. And this is the area where people who live in Jenkins and Whitesburg and Perry County and on into Jackson, their forefathers came through those areas where a lot of the forefathers of people that live here came through the Cumberland Gap. So this is what we ought to promote, and I think we ought to build something that would really indicate this pioneer history of our area.
Okay. Now this question is for you. I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your artwork.
Well, I appreciate that. I have done artwork all my life. I am a graduate of the Adair Studio School in Pennsylvania. I'm a member of the Society of Illustrators of New York. And heck, I like to live here and paint pictures, and that's why I have the drugstore, to where it's enabled me to paint more of what I want to do. And at present, I'm doing all of the service academies of the United States, the Citadel, West Point, Annapolis, and this keeps me pretty busy.
Okay. Are these pieces for sale once they're completed?
Yes, I sell the military works through the particular schools, such as the Citadel, and then I also have the work in my own studio. And a percentage of those sales goes back to the institutions, because I feel that's the best way to handle the work I do.
Today we're gathering the history in Bell County. We're atop of Pine Mountain here at the Pine Mountain State Park, one of Kentucky's great state parks in southeastern Kentucky. Of course, we're gathering all of the historic information about each and every county in the Commonwealth. Today we finished our 82nd county here in the Kentucky. This beautiful view and this beautiful park is one of the things that we want to promote in the state of Kentucky. Liberty, the county seat of Casey County. Casey County population, 15,054. Area square miles, 445. Rank, 20. Casey County is located in the 5th Congressional District.
Casey County was formed in December of 1806 from Lincoln County. It was actually started functioning as a county in 1807. We have the tax records from 1807. Governor Greenup appointed the officials for the county in December. The county is named, the town, the county seat of the town is named Liberty, and it was named that by Revolutionary War soldiers who received grants in this area for their service. Some of them, of course, settled here, and some of them didn't. Of course, at that time, it's my understanding that the state required that there was sufficient population in a county to petition for separation. I've never been able to find that, but I found the names of an awful lot of people because of land grants and so forth.
What can you tell us about the courthouse? How old is this courthouse, and were there any that were here before this?
Well, everything indicates that there were 3 courthouses here. Recently, we received through the mail the record of the first 10 years of the county, the first order book, or the minutes it's called. We don't know whether the order book is still missing or whether this is all there is at that time. The first courthouse was received in the town of Liberty on September the 11th, 1809. The second courthouse was built here in 1844. We have pictures of that in this history. And then this third courthouse was built in 1888. This courthouse was built for $15,000.
Goodness.
We have gate factories, and we have Oshkosh, and we have small industries. Of course, we don't have industries, larger industries that would bring a lot of income into the county. Of course, that affects the economy of the county if you don't have sufficient industry to support it. This is primarily an agricultural county, and of course agriculture is depressed at this time. But Casey County has some of the richest soil you'll find any place, the most beautiful apples you'll find any place, and of course we're promoting that with our big apple festival.
When is that?
That's the last weekend in September of each year. And for the last, well, since 1975, I think it is, we've cooked a huge apple pie. We started out with an 8-foot pie, and now I think it's progressed to a 10-foot pie. Mm-hmm. Takes something like 60 bushels of apples.
Goodness.
Love Kentucky unconditionally. There's no question about this. There are no people in this country who hold a state in any higher esteem than we do right here in Kentucky. We have a very special relationship with our Commonwealth, you and I do, and we've had it all our lives. And nowhere is that any more evident than right here at Fancy Farm. But ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you today, it is no longer enough that we simply love Kentucky. Because true love, true care, and true concern dictate that we must be active in our passion for this state, that we must do something about the problems that we have in the state. So if George Jones were here today, I would ask him to sing a new song, and a different song entitled, They Started Doing Something Today.
Manchester, the county seat of Clay County. Clay County population, 23,631. Area square miles, 471, rank 16th. Clay County is located in the 5th Congressional District.
When John Amos found out about it, he got his brother-in-law John Gilbert, who was one of the first settlers in this part of the country, and his brother-in-law John Sizemore, who lived where Hyden is today, and some of their boys and friends, and about 34 of them, I think, they rode over to invade the North Fork, and they had a little battle at the Battle of, they call it the Battle of Grapevine. And a few horses were killed, and the only people wounded was John Cox and a Nicholson man who weren't as closely allied with the Amoses and Gilberts as the others, but they happened to be the only ones that got shot and just got wounded. And the thing resulted, as a result of this feud, and of course I guess there were other shootings and so forth, the legislature on December the 2nd of 1806 passed a law creating this county. Now, the thing that indicates to me that the cattle war had anything to do with it is the fact the county stretched from the top of Big Hill, where you can hear the chapel bell of Berea College, all the way to the headwaters of Lots Creek, which heads up against Licking Valley in what's now Knott County, and that included all of Grapevine and all of the Middle Fork. And it included all of what is now most of Owsley, of course Clay, parts of Breathitt, Perry, Knott, a little bit of, I think, of what's now Knox County, Leslie County, Jackson County, a little bit of Estill County, and a little bit of Lee County, and of course all of Owsley County and Jackson County. The first county court was held on Monday, April the 13th, 1807. The first criminal court, and I'm not quite sure where it was held. Some said it was in Robert Baker's house, which a lawyer, Roy House, that died just this year, always claimed was across the river here, about where the railroad makes a spur over there. Mm-hmm. And but other places I find him living was down around Oneida. But
let me ask you this question: how did it get the name Clay County?
It was named for Green Clay, who was the father of Cassius, the Amorphous Green Clay. Of course, Green Clay later was a figure in the War of 1812, but this was before the War of 1812. I don't think he had any land in this part of the country. He did have some land in Estill County, but I think he was named just because he was a political figure in the county. And
can you tell us how old this courthouse is?
This courthouse was built in the 30s. Okay. I remember when I was just a kid, somewhere around 1930, being at a trial here of, which must have been about 1928, 29, or 30, and it was in a different building, a brick building that did burn. But all of the records have been saved, except some have been pilfered. But there's a few lost and this sort of thing. But we have all of our records, and they go back to that far back.
That's great. Could you tell us what the major industries are in Clay County?
Coal and some tobacco. As far as agriculture is concerned, tobacco, there's a little livestock, but not too much. That's about it, and a little timbering, little. There used to be quite a bit of stave production here, and but the first big industry, of course, was salt, and it went out, by 1900.
Now, something I wanted to ask you yourself. You're holding two books. Can you tell us what those books are?
One is When They Hang the Fiddler, which is, both of them are just collections of short stories that I have written for for a little newsletter. And the first one was When They Hang the Fiddler, and the next one was The Sugar Pond and the Fritter Tree. And these have, one of the stories in them is a story. When They Hang the Fiddler is the story of the trial and hanging of Isaac Callahan, who was a brother-in-law to my great-great-grandfather, and caused the Wilson family to move so that the grandchildren married differently than they would have, otherwise I would not have been born. So you would have been interviewing somebody else this morning.
Okay, let me ask you one more question to help with tourism. Tell us one thing, one of the things that is worth seeing outside of the hills themselves.
Oh, the hills themselves. I would say the history of the place, the families here. If you happen to have a link to the families here, I have correspondence from practically every state in the Union regarding long dead ancestors who lived in Clay County, who went to Missouri, Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, California. I can't think of any place else I'd rather live, and there's lots of people move here from, even some damn Yankees moved in here, and
Okay.
lived here.
My name's Brian White.
Okay.
My name's John M. Little.
What can you tell us about your grandfather?
It was my great-grandfather. He was born in 1818 in Russell County, Virginia, and he introduced the first laws on behalf of the education.
Albany, the county seat of Clinton County. Clinton County population, 9,830. Area square miles, 196. Clinton County is located in the 5th Congressional District. Today we're at Albany in Clinton County. We find that we have three gentlemen here that are going to give us a little bit of the history and background of Clinton County and Albany. First of all, I'd like to ask each of these gentlemen to introduce themselves to us.
I'm Jack Ferguson.
Perry Cross.
I'm David Cross.
First, David, let me ask you, of course this is your father with us today, and I'm sure you're proud to have a good heritage here in the county of Clinton County. What can you tell me about your experiences and growing up here in the area and becoming a lawyer? I'm assuming that you graduated probably from one of the major law schools in the state, either UK or University of Louisville.
Graduated from U of L, John. It's a wonderful place to grow up, Albany is, and there's nothing like the feeling of fulfillment you get when you've been gone from home and get to come back to a small town, meet people on the street, they speak to you, you know all the storekeepers, you know where the people live, and you know the people you deal with. It's a marvelous feeling, and those who cannot experience it are really missing something. We've been back here about 2 years now practicing, and it's very stimulating and very enjoyable.
Let me ask you, Jack, I understand that you're working on a book about the history here of Clinton County and Albany. What can you tell us about that book that you're working on?
Right now, I'm holding in my hands Volume 2, Volume 1 is in the hands of the printer, and we're hoping very strongly that it'll be out the end of November. It's been an awful hard time getting this printed. You have to proof text and reread and all like that. Volume 2, which I'm holding here, coming out next year, will deal mostly with the Civil War and up until 1900. Volume 1 has to do with early settlers.
Well, I know that you and Mr. Cross, Perry Cross, have, of course, been here in the county a long time, and I'm sure you're very proud of the area. How did the county of Clinton get its name?
Well, my research says it was named after Clinton Winfrey, who was the young son of the representative from Adair County who jointly sponsored the act to create the county. Another form of it is that it was named after DeWitt Clinton, who was governor of New York, and that's on our plaque here in the courthouse yard to that effect.
Mr. Cross, do you have any information on the name of the county, or what your recollections are?
That's about the way I understand the way Jack expressed it. I mostly think that most of the people think it was DeWitt Clinton from governor of New York at the time, but it could be possible it could have been the man from Adair County. I wouldn't know.
John, the speculation is that Francis Winfrey named it for his son, but he knew that wouldn't necessarily fly in the legislature, so he had to have another party that they said it was named for, and he picked DeWitt Clinton, and it's DeWitt Clinton whose name is on the historical marker. But I suspect that Clinton Winfrey might have had something more to do with it.
Sounds like a good Kentucky political move, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Let's go back now to the city here, the county seat of Albany. How did it receive its name?
Well, if you accept that the county was named after DeWitt Clinton, then Albany would have been named after Albany, which is the capital of New York. However, there's a traditionary story about the name of the town that I'd like to tell you. There was Beanie Dale, who was reported to have lived here. Robert Cross had a large orchard here that covered this, and he was one of the first settlers on the site. And Cross and Dale together offered to give the area for the formation of the town. So they had an election to determine which location they'd have. There's a location in Ida, down in the Ida community, one here, Snow community, one here, and one at the old town of Paoli, which is just south of here. And they claim that during the election they were circulating spirituous liquors pretty freely, and they'd ask one old codger how was the election going. He'd say all for Beanie, because Beanie Dale was one of the movers to have it placed here. As the election went on and his speech became more slurred, he would say all Beanie, all Beanie. So that's the traditionary origin of the name Albany. I don't hardly buy that.
Of course, I looked behind us and I see a nice new modern courthouse. I'm sure that there have been many courthouses before this one. And what can you tell us a little bit about the first courthouses and what happened to them?
Well, let me start that, and Perry can go ahead and finish. The first courthouse of the county was down at the old town of Paoli. William Cross was appointed the first judge of the county by the governor when Clinton County was created. He held court down there for possibly 2 years in a large structure that they had built of logs. And at the end of 2 years, they had laid off lots in Albany, sold enough to build a courthouse here, and they moved the court from down to Paoli up here. The courthouse there was torn down and sold to Reverend William Cross, the county judge. He transported it out north of Albany and used it in building a barn. Perry can tell you about some of the other buildings that was courthouses.
What about the others, Perry?
Well, I think the second courthouse was burned during the Civil War, was it not, Jack?
Yes, it was.
And then we later, our whole historic courthouse was built in 1895, and it lasted until a few years ago, and is destroyed by fire in 1980, and been 7 years ago. And then we built this modern, beautiful structure now for the latest courthouse, which we're very proud of.
In looking at Clinton County on the map, of course, we see that it borders the state of Tennessee. How actually was the county of Clinton formed, and when was it formed?
The act creating the county was passed in 1835. It was signed into law by Governor Breathitt in February of 1836. It provided that after April 1st of that year, that certain portions of Cumberland County and Wayne County would be formed into a new county to be called Clinton.
And the size of Clinton County now, what is your all's population here in the county? Do you have a general idea?
We have about 10,000 people in the county. We have around 200 square miles within the county.
If someone were traveling to Clinton County or Albany or this area, what would they want to see either of historical value or from a recreational purpose for tourism?
Well, the first thing we'd like to do is invite everybody to come down here. It's usually the third weekend in October to our Foothills Festival. We have a fall festival here with activities centered around the downtown area, and it's fast becoming one of the biggest and best fall festivals in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We're preparing for that now. Other things, we have Lake Cumberland and Dale Hollow, which offer extensive recreation. We have wonderful dock facilities, camping, boating. We also have a golf course here and country club. And this time of year, it's in the fall of the year, it's just a wonderful place to come and drive around and look at the trees. The colors are beautiful. We think our natural beauty here is one of our finest facilities we have.
You know, they talk about the foliage in the state of Vermont, but having traveled through Kentucky myself some 40,000 miles now doing these historic tapes, and having seen all 4 seasons, including now the fall that we're in, the foliage here in Kentucky, all through Kentucky, is some of the most glorious. It's absolutely beautiful, the bright colors that we've seen.
They talk about Gatlinburg and the Smoky Mountains, and you don't have to leave Clinton County to see some of the most beautiful color in this time of the year up around Cartwright and the mountains up in Poplar Mountain. It's just as pretty as it is in Gatlinburg. The scenery is here. You don't have to drive 150 miles to see it.
Is that?
Yes, the area around Grider Hill Dock and Indian Creek Lodge has been a family-owned business for over 30 years, since the formation of Lake Cumberland in the north part of our county about 1950. Near Grider Hill and Indian Creek is 76 Falls, which is a large waterfall which cascades over into Lake Cumberland. 76 used to be an incorporated town back in the early 19th century and had several distinguished citizens of some prominence that lived around 76. That's somewhat of an unusual name, and there's some dispute as to how the town of 76 got its name. Perhaps Mr. Ferguson could relate that to us.
I don't think it was for the height of the falls. A lot of people say it is, but I think that was a station number of the surveying crew that they placed that 76 station number just above the falls.
A little bit more on the history of the area. Give us a little background, Mr. Ferguson, yourself, on how you got into this and some of the things that you discovered that are unique or interesting about the area.
Okay, I got into this when I was very young, going to grade school. I had a great uncle who was very old, and he would regale me with stories of the pioneer days and things like that. And that got me interested, and I've been hooked on it ever since. One of the things I found out after I started studying the history of Clinton County is that we've had some very notable men. We had Clinton County has produced 2 governors of the state of Kentucky.
Fantastic.
Governor Leslie was born up here at Cartwright, and Governor Brownlee was born out here in the Maupin community. In addition to that, Clinton County has furnished 2 governors of the state of Montana. Governor Leslie, after he left Kentucky, went to Montana and became a lawyer, and was appointed as a last territorial governor of the state of Montana before he came into the Union as a state. Samuel Ford was born here in Albany. He went to Montana, married Governor Leslie's granddaughter, and he became governor of Montana also. We produced quite a few Doctors, Dr. Robert Chilton went to Texas. Dr. Buckner went to Dallas, Texas, founded Buckner's Orphans Home. We produced several evangelists and preachers of quite some renown in this county. We produced our part, I would say, of noted people.
We have a church down here. Clear Fork Baptist Church is one of the oldest churches in the country, and it is very well known, and the first pastor, I believe, was Isaac Denton, and that church has been noted a long time for its history as being one of the oldest churches in the Stockton Valley, called it the Stockton Valley community, then covered a great territory. But that is one of the oldest churches in the county, isn't it, Jack?
That's correct. It's the first church in Clinton County, really. It's the first church built down there in Clinton County. And another one who came out of Clear Fork Church was a noted evangelist, Raccoon John Smith. And quite a few people, I'm sure, have known about Raccoon John Smith.
Well, I can see that we've had some interesting, colorful stories about Clinton County. Well, shall we say, from historical standpoint, any darker sides on the cloud, such as the Jesse James gang? We've talked about in some areas of the Commonwealth his exploits. Do we have any historical figures here that fit into that pattern?
Well, during the Civil War, we had Union and Confederate guerrillas who fought all over Clinton County. They fought a no-holds-barred war. No prisoners taken. All prisoners they killed on the spot. One of the most noted on the rebel side was Champ Ferguson. I'm sorry that I have the same name, but I have to tell you about that. Champ Ferguson was a Confederate guerrilla. Tinker Dave Beatty was a Union guerrilla. They fought each other through 4 years of the war. And Champ was finally surrendered at the end of the war, was taken to Nashville, Tennessee, tried before a military tribunal, and sentenced to be hanged.
John Basil Duke, who was a member of Morgan's Raiders and wrote a book about Morgan's cavalry following the Civil War, referred to Ferguson as the most feared man in the Confederacy. We're holding a print of the Clinton County Courthouse, the courthouse that was built in 1895 and was destroyed by fire in 1980. This is a print by a Clinton County artist, Fred Thrasher. This courthouse was constructed by Bill McDonald in 1895. The building was the best built building in Clinton County, and the old-timers say that Bill McDonald took such pride in it that he went broke as a result of its construction.
This building replaced one that was burned during the Civil War. The first building that we had, first courthouse that we had in Albany, was a brick constructed building. Sit on essentially the same side as this one. During the Civil War, some Confederate soldiers camped in the courthouse yard. They'd barbecuing a pig. They were building fires to keep warm and to barbecue the pig, and some of the fire got away from them, burned the courthouse. It burnt the roof off, the inside, the windows, and after the war, they repaired the old building and used it up until 1895. As David told you, then W.L. McDonald built this present one that's shown in the picture here.
The courthouse we're now standing in front of was completed in 1982. The courthouse was built with some delay. There was some dispute as to which way the courthouse ought to face, and as you can see, the courthouse faces somewhat sideways on the square. There was a conflict between certain people in town as to which way it would face, and as a result it faces what some people might call catty-cornered. We're all very proud of the facility here. It's one of the finest new courthouses in the Commonwealth.
My name is Tony Sloan. My brothers and I operate Grider Hill Dock and Indian Creek Lodge. Our dad started it when the lake was formed in 1950. Clinton County, we think, is Kentucky's prettiest county. It goes on the west from the Cumberland River and climbs up to the step in the middle where there's a lot of fertile farmland, and then in the east you go into the mountains, which are elevation approximately 2,000 feet. But here we're standing at Lake Cumberland, one of the man-made wonders of the world. Covers over 50,000 acres of land, over 100 miles long, and has 1,200 miles of shoreline. Boaters are wild about it because it has no navigation hazards. It's a deep lake, averages over 90 foot deep. It's a pure lake. Mountainous terrain is all that it drains basically, and there's no development around it. And it's a quiet lake for boaters because the mountains or hills around it shield it from the wind. So, and it's blessed with many good fish. So we're real proud of it. Just south of here we have a sister lake called Del Hollow Lake that is much like Lake Cumberland, only about a third the size. Just upstream 5 miles from us is 76 Falls, a waterfall that drops into Lake Cumberland. Here at Grider Hill we offer lodge rooms and cottages or houseboats or camping, whichever. But there's a lot of activities, basically water orientated, skin diving, skiing, swimming, sunbathing, or houseboating, or whatever, fishing of course. But if you're interested in sightseeing, although it's not here in Clinton County, just south of us we have the big South Fork National Park. It's in the gorge area of the big South Fork of the Cumberland River. Some people refer to it as the Grand Canyon of the East. Not too far west of us is Mammoth Cave National Park, about 70 miles. And over in just north of us in Russell County, we have the Wolf Creek Dam, one of the larger dams in the world. And a very unique thing of nature is the Rock House, natural bridge right alongside the Cumberland River that the Cumberland River obviously created sometime in the past.
Burkesville, the county seat of Cumberland County. Cumberland County population 7,509. Area square miles 304. Rank 62. Cumberland County is located in the 5th Congressional District.
Randolph Smith, he's a resident here in Burkesville. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do here?
I'm a pharmacist primarily, and we're in a real old drugstore in that we've been in business in my family since 1906, and it's been a business since 1817, not as a drugstore all the time. I didn't come interested in local history until my father had died, who was quite a historian, but he never wrote it down. It was all in his mind. He never did put it in paper. But our sesquicentennial, I believe, was in 1960, and somehow someone assigned me research on the local history. Until that time, I had never been interested. Primarily, they put me on the research in the Lincoln family, as the president's father lived here a few years. But local historians here at times had claimed that the president was born here, but there's just no records that even hints at that.
Okay. Let me ask a little bit about the county. Can you give us an idea of when the county was formed, or was it formed from any other close counties?
Cumberland County was formed in December of 1798, but became active in July of 1799. It was quite a large county at that time, and it included areas now of Cumberland, Clinton, Metcalfe, Monroe, Wayne, and a part of Macquarie County were all, some areas of all these counties were once part of Cumberland.
Okay. To your knowledge, do you know of any historical figures, gentlemen, ladies, that came from your county or came through your county?
Actually, other than Thomas Lincoln, there's no one that I would like to mention now that of historical significance.
Okay. This courthouse, it's safe to assume that it's not the original. How many courthouses has Cumberland County had?
We have had at least 4 or 5. This courthouse was built about 1933. I may be off a year or two. The previous courthouse burned on the last day of the previous year, and my father and I rescued most of the records that were rescued from the courthouse, as we lived only 2 houses from the square. The previous courthouse to this one was burned during the Civil War, and there were at least 2 courthouses prior to that.
If someone were to ask you, what do you have in your county to provide some tourism?
The lakes are our primary attraction. Of course, Dale Hollow with its record small bass, and we're also quite close to Lake Cumberland, and we're kind of in between the two. So our lakes are our main attraction.
Okay, great.
Irvin, the county seat of Estill County. Estill County population, 15,048. Area square miles, 256. Rank, 80. Estill County is located in the 5th Congressional District.
We're standing across the street from the Estill County Courthouse. The county seat is Irvin, Kentucky. To my right, we have 2 gentlemen who have graciously volunteered to answer some questions for us about the county. One of the questions that we wanted to ask was about the period of time that the county was formed at.
About 1908, this county was formed.
Okay.
And it was named after a man named James Estill. And back in those days that they had trouble with the Indians, and when Estill was formed, and it was formed as 5 different counties. Estill County was the #1 county, and then Madison and Clark and Montgomery was adjoining county to that county, to Estill County.
Okay. How did it get its name, Estill?
Well, there was a man here named James Estill, and that's where it's got its name, because he was the pioneer of Estill County. He was the founder of Estill County.
Okay. We want to get a shot of the courthouse, the pictures that you have. Before we do that, though, we need to introduce you to gentlemen.
My name is Fred Rollins. I'm the Deputy Executive Judge of Estill County.
Okay.
My name is Arnold Harris. I'm just a citizen of the county.
Okay.
This is This is our first courthouse. And back in those days, when they had a trial at this courthouse here, when the verdict was out, they come out on this small balcony up at top that you see at this picture, and they would tell the people what the verdict was then. They didn't have a swarming crowd back in those days. There wasn't that many. So when they had the verdict, they brought it right out on this balcony and told the people what the verdict was. You want me to change? This is the second courthouse was built, and it was built by the WPA workers in 1939. And this is the standard courthouse. It's made of sandstone, and it's solid, and it's still a good courthouse today. And we are really proud of this courthouse. The second courthouse was promoted by an urban attorney by the name of John W. Walker. He was a supervisor in the construction of this second courthouse of Irvin, Kentucky. This here is a picture of the old furnace, which back in those days, the old days, they brought iron ore out of Esta County, and this is where they produced iron ore into iron back in those days. We have 2 furnaces in Esta County. This is at Pittsburgh, Kentucky. This is one of the first and original one. And then we have one on the Tipton Ridge, one up forward. They done the same kind of work. They brought the iron ore out and melted it down and made iron ore. We have a beautiful county. We have a Kentucky River running through Esta County, through Irving, and it's a beautiful river. We have locks, and this is the Lock 12 here. And we have a good railroad running through this town, and we have a good town for a factory, but what we really need is an industrial site for a factory. We have some beautiful mountains here. We just have a beautiful scenery here in Esta County that people come through here. They come through pretty often. We have a whole lot of tourists from come through here to look at our place. We do have a wonderful place here in Esta County.
Okay, what water is there? What body of waters are going through here?
It's called Kentucky River, and it comes right through right by the town, and the railroad comes right through our town too.
Okay. What kind of things go on? I mean, what are the people doing down on the river?
Well, they do quite a bit of boating on this river. There's a lot of boats here. You should drive down here at this boat dock just across the end of the bridge, turn right back on the bridge. It's a nice place down there. We have a lot of boating on this river. I'd say that's the most nicest thing we've got on the river is the boating.
Okay.
Lancaster, the county seat of Garrett County. Garrett County population, 11,599. Area square miles, 232. Rank, 92nd. Garrett County is located in the 5th Congressional District.
We're across the street from the Garrett County Courthouse. County seat is Lancaster, Kentucky. To my right, we have a gentleman, Mr. Jack Bailey, who has graciously volunteered to answer some questions for us about the county. What can you tell us about the formation of the county?
Garrett County was voted by the legislature in 1796 to become effective January the 1st, 1797. It was the 25th county that was formed in Kentucky, and it was named for Governor Garrett, the 2nd governor of Kentucky, who was from Bourbon County. The Garrett County was formed from 3 counties: Madison County, Mercer County, and then Lincoln County. Lincoln County was at that time one of the largest counties in the state. And we have been, our first court was held in 1797, and we're one of the older counties in Kentucky.
Okay, thank you. What can you tell us about the courthouse? How many courthouses has Garrett County had?
This building that we see now is the 3rd courthouse that Garrett County had. The first courthouse was a log courthouse, and I don't know just exactly where the exact site of it was, but the 2nd courthouse was a stone courthouse that was built in the center of the square that we see right now. Then the present courthouse was built previous to the Civil War, I believe about 1854, and this is the courthouse that we're using now.
Okay. What can you tell us about the major industries in Garrett County?
Well, our major income in Garrett County is from farming. We are very short of industry as such. We do have a plant at the edge of town that was manufactured caskets, and that's been closed about 3 years now, and we've been unable to get another company to take that plant and open it up. We do desperately need industry.
What could you tell us about tourism in your area?
Well, we are on, of course, US 27, the main north-south highway, and we do have some tourist attractions here in Garrett County. For example, Garrett County is the birthplace of Carrie Nation. Now, in case you don't know about Carrie Nation was the lady with the hatchet that went into the illegal bars. I say illegal bars because she didn't tear up a legal bar. She took the hatchet to the illegal bars in Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, and led the way for Prohibition. She pushed prohibition, and prohibition was at last voted by the Congress of the United States in 1918. It didn't last long, but Carrie Nation contributed to that. Garrett County is also the spot where Uncle Tom's cabin sat. It's out on Kentucky 52 east of Lancaster. We have the Garrett County is also the home of the very famous Walker Foxhounds. Walker Foxhounds are known all over the world, and the Walker brothers from here in Garrett County bred the Walker Foxhounds and gave us the breed of Walker Foxhounds, and we are very proud of that. We have other attractions in the county. We have a house at the edge of town that is the Governor Owsley House. That house needs some repair right at the present time, and we're trying to, we hope to get something done about that. At the present time, we're in the process of making the jail, the old jail here in Garrett County, available to different organizations and groups that would like to have a place in that jail for their meeting place. We can no longer use it for a jail. The Department of Corrections has deemed that it's not suitable for a jail anymore. So we're trying to make a use of that building, and we hope to make a tourist attraction there. We hope to have tours through the cell block area, and that jail was built in 1874, so it is a very historic spot in Garrett County. We have other spots here that are historic. Garrett County being one of the early counties. We had many politicians that came from Garrett County, both to the state government and to the federal government. We have produced several very important men down through the years. Garrett County also has another very historic spot, especially for the Baptist denomination. Back in 1784, Lewis Craig brought his traveling church from Spotsylvania County, Virginia. There were over 200 members of that church that came with Lewis and settled in Garrett County on Gilbert's Creek, about 3 miles out of Lancaster on the Crab Orchard Road. He also built a station there that was known as Craig Station. From that point, Craig moved on to Elkhorn, the Elkhorn Creek Church in Fayette County. Garrett County is also the site of Miller Station and a very early fort near Paint Lick that was settled in the late 1700s. Kennedy Station was also a very early fort or station in Garrett County. Garrett County has down through the years been a very historic spot, and we're very proud of that fact. We have 2 newspapers here in Lancaster. We have the Central Record, which was founded in 1889, and also we have the Garrett County News, a later paper that was founded sometime in the last 10 to 15 years. So we do have 2 weekly newspapers here in the county. Garrett County is a good place to live. I know because I was born and raised right here in the county and live within the spot where I was born, so I have deep roots here.
Greensburg, the county seat of Greene County. Greene County population, 10,860. Area square miles, 289. Rank, 70. Greene County is located in the 5th Congressional District.
I'm Billy Squires, Greene County Court Clerk from Greensburg, Kentucky. In our office, we have records dating back to 1792, and so the role of our office is very essential that we keep these records and keep them updated and keep them in good shape. In our office, not only do we have the marriages, the deeds, or anything else that you're looking for when you're looking for your family tree and seeing maybe what ancestors, where they came from, you're able to go back and find all those records in our office. We have people coming in every day from out of state. We have letters coming in, 3 or 4 letters every day. In order to do this, then our office has to go ahead and keep these records and keep them in good shape, which they have been for the past several years. The clerks before I became in office, which I've been in for 14 years, they have been kept in real good shape, and we have continued to do that.
I'm here in Greene County today, in Greensburg, standing in front of what's reported to be the oldest courthouse in the state of Kentucky that's still standing. Can you gentlemen introduce yourselves to me?
My name is Charles G. Ford. I live at Summersville, Kentucky.
And your name, sir, is?
Harry Nunn. I live here in town.
Mr. Nunn, I understand you're the caretaker here at the old courthouse, sort of keep it up and work on it?
That's right. That's right.
What can you tell us? What all do you do here at the courthouse? Open it up and watch over it? And
yes, sir. That's practically all I do. I don't do no repairing or nothing like that. But I open it up. I stay here 6 hours a day, 4 days a week.
And so it is open for tourism travel?
That's right. Mm-hmm. Sure is.
Do you get very many visitors coming through looking at it?
Yeah, I get quite a few. Get a lot of them from out of state. That's where we keep a record. I've got a record, and I have everybody that will. You'll find a few people that won't sign the register. But that's what we aim to do. Aim to get all of them. And then we can go back over it and show people where they're from. I have visitors from, I would say, every state in the Union.
Let me ask you this question. How do you I guess, how long have you been here in Greene County?
Oh, I've been in Greene County ever since about 32 or 3. I've been here quite a while. I was away for about 17 years, but I come back.
I assume that you're proud of the fact that you all have maintained the old county courthouse here.
That's right. Yeah, we think lots of it.
Adds a lot of history value to the county and to our Commonwealth, doesn't it?
That's right. There's a lot of history behind it.
I'm here this beautiful fall day in Greensburg, Kentucky, in Greene County, with Wilma Despain.
The oldest courthouse west of the Alleghenies. That's better than just Kentucky.
Isn't that fantastic? Of course, you folks keep this courthouse open for tourism travel, I understand.
That's true. It was used as a courthouse until the late 1930s or the late 1920s, and since then it has been a variety of things, a gift shop, a library, and so forth, and since the first part of the 1970s it has been operated or open as a historic building, museum type thing. It's on the National Register.
What are some of the features of the old courthouse here that people would look for?
Well, just the majesty that surrounds it, being here in the middle of the square in Greensburg. It's built of native limestone, which was taken from limestone quarries here in Greene County, reportedly. There's some interesting history that says that Governor Metcalf, not governor at the time, but later Stonehammer Metcalf was one of the ones that worked on the building of the courthouse. The restoration which was done on it in the 1970s was done according to the original specifications that were drawn up for the building of the courthouse, so we feel that it's a rather authentic restoration.
And I suppose if people were coming and traveling through Greene County, one of the first places they'd want to come to would be to the old courthouse to visit it.
That's probably true, particularly since you can hardly miss it when you drive through.
What other recreational areas or historical sites here in Greene County would people want to see?
Well, of course, we think that the county itself is just rather rich in history, just simply because of the fact that it is one of the original counties of the state of Kentucky. Right now, we're one of the smallest, perhaps the smallest county in the state of Kentucky, but if the adjoining counties hadn't taken so much land away from us, we'd still be one of the largest. But there were a number of counties that were formed from what were the original boundaries of Greene County. We are unique, I think, in that we were not, our records were not destroyed by the Civil War, and we have not had any bad fires since then which have destroyed courthouses and records. And so we have a rather complete set of records going all the way back into the late 1700s. This would be land records, court records, family records, and so forth. So we have a lot of people who come here every year just for the purpose of doing research on their roots.
Yeah, Billy Squires, the county clerk, was telling me about that earlier, that he has 2 or 3 people call a day and write letters checking out the genealogy of their family backgrounds and I imagine that's quite a interest, particularly for people outside the state.
And the Historical Society gets a lot of letters of that same type, and then we have the Historical Society has a quarterly publication, and we run queries about your ancestors free of charge in the quarterly.
Are there any other recreational areas here in this county or surrounding counties that people would come to see?
Well, we have the American Legion Park, which has very fine facilities for family reunions, playgrounds, baseball, softball. We have a river that runs by there where a lot of people do canoeing. We're not very far from Green River Lake and the reservoir, which is very good for fishing and for camping, boating, just any kind of recreation that you would associate with the water.
And I notice also driving into Greene County, you have some beautiful fall foliage here.
Yes, we do. Very, very lovely. And of course, in the spring we have a lot of flowering trees, and when it begins to come to life after winter, that's a pretty time also.
Why don't we go in and take a little look at the courthouse now and some of the historical markers around it.
Okay. Our guest register, where we hope that people will take time to sign their name either when they come or at least before they leave the courthouse. We like to look at this and see what kind of visitors we have had here, and we know right now that in the last year we have had visitors from, I believe it's 38 states and 6 foreign countries. Here at the front of the building, we have the judges' stand, where since probably about 1804, a variety of judges have taken their place to try people who have been here before him and before a jury. On either side of the judges' stand, we have the places where the witness would have been sitting, and then the jury would have been over at this side. Up the stairs over here, on the second level, we have 2 jury rooms where the jurors would have retired to deliberate on the information which they had heard in the courtroom. Obviously, the building was built before we had any kind of central heating system, and this is the location of the original fireplace, which was restored. The screen which is in front of it is not original, but that was the fireplace which was used to heat this massive room, and upstairs each one of the jury rooms has its own separate fireplace. The paneling which is on the wall around the courtroom is not original, but as previously mentioned, it is one of the things that was done according to the original specifications for the courthouse. It is of native walnut.
Okay.
We think that the floor of the courthouse is very interesting and a little remarkable. Through the years, as the county attempted to update the courthouse, it was covered with first one floor and then another, and when the restoration was begun in the 70s, one floor was taken up, another floor was taken up, and after they had removed 3 floors, they got down to this brick floor, which was the original floor in the courthouse. Part of the bricks in the floor are original, and part of them are ones that were replaced in order that we might have a floor that looked like it did originally. Probably the most famous person to ever sit as judge in this courtroom is Henry Clay, and a picture of Mr. Clay is placed over the mantel in the fireplace, over the mantel in the courthouse. The courthouse is at Christmas. For most of the month of December, the courthouse is very beautifully decorated by some of the local people who really care about the courthouse. We have magnolias and candles in all of the windows, garlands on the stairways and across the railings downstairs, and a huge Christmas tree which is decorated with ornaments that have been made by the children in the local schools. It's east or west? Must be east. This is the East Jury Room upstairs in the old courthouse, which the Historical Society has long had plans to furnish as an early 1900 schoolroom, because it reportedly was used as a schoolroom for a period of time about then. According to this plaque, which tells us about the Greensburg Courthouse, it's one of the oldest public buildings still standing in Kentucky. built between 1802 and 1804. It lists some of the people who were participants in the building process, even mentioning Thomas Metcalf, later governor of the Commonwealth. It was used as a courthouse for 135 years, and at the time the plaque was made, the Jane Todd Crawford Library was on the second floor, but it is no longer on the second floor. I think it's interesting to note that the building was last used as a courthouse on a temporary basis about 3 or 4 years ago when they were doing extensive renovation on the present courthouse, and during that time all of the trials in the county actually were held in this courtroom. According to this plaque, Greene County was officially founded in the year 1792 from parts of Lincoln and Nelson counties. It's interesting to note, though, that we do have documented history of the county for several years before that. We even have a couple of trees in Greene County where supposedly Daniel Boone carved his name because he was here. We had a lot of activity with the long hunters who came here to hunt, get skins, and then go someplace to sell them. This indicates also that the county was named for General Nathaniel Greene, who was a Revolutionary War hero. He never came to Greene County, but it was named for him, as was Greensburg. There have been times in the past when the E on the end of Nathaniel Greene's name was used in the spelling of both Greensburg and Greene County, but it is not used like that now. Originally, the city was not named Greensburg. It was called Glover's Station, and it was more or less somewhere right around here. The actual city of Greensburg, as it now is, the county seat, was incorporated by an act of the legislature in 1794. This is another stone building which we have here in Greensburg, which is very old. On the corner, the first of the stone buildings was originally the Bank of the Commonwealth and built in 1818. It's connected with Allen's Inn, which was built in 1806, and there are records which show Andrew Jackson spent the night there. This is our footbridge, which was built in about 1928. Up until then, there had been many, many years of discussion about the fact that it was difficult to get from the town square across the valley to the railroad station, which was on the opposite side. The bridge was built to take care of that problem. It's known that there are a lot of swinging bridges in Kentucky. They go, particularly in eastern Kentucky, they go back and forth across the rivers and streams. We have been led to believe, however, that this is the only stationary footbridge in the state of Kentucky. If you look through the side of the wire here, you can see one of the flights of stairs that went down the hillside so that people could get to the railroad station on the other side or to their homes over there. There were a flight of stairs going down this side and a flight of stairs going up the other side. The bridge is still used for travel back and forth from one side of town to the other, and is a popular field trip for kindergarten and first and second graders particularly. This is a group of kindergarten children who are on their way to town. It was felt to be historically significant. It was built as a waterworks building, later became a city hall, and it was built by the WPA in 1936.
Harlan, the county seat of Harlan County. Harlan County population, 42,350. Area square miles, 468. Rank, 17th. Harlan County is located in the 5th Congressional District.
We're standing across the street from the Harlan County Courthouse. The county seat is Harlan, Kentucky. To my right, we have two local residents who have graciously volunteered to answer some questions for us about the county. First, will you introduce yourself, please, and what you do here?
Edward L. Kaywood. I'm president and chairman of the board of the Bank of Harlan.
Okay.
I'm Valina Kraft. I'm the widow of the late Dr. J.W. Kraft.
Okay, thank you. What can you tell us about the county itself? How was Harlan County formed?
Harlan County was formed from Knox County in 1819.
Okay. Do you know how it got its name? Harlan?
Yes, it's named after a judge or a jurist, I believe, around that time.
Okay. What about the courthouse? What is the age of this courthouse, and were there other courthouses?
I think it's built about 1924.
Okay. And were there other courthouses that you know about?
The courthouse before that was a red brick with a plank fence all the way around it, and so that the natives could hitch their horses to the fence, and mules too.
Okay. In the spring we have homecoming and we have activities then. We have a poke salad festival. That's at the Morton's Fork Lake.
We also have lots of hills around you.
Yes, we have. The highest hill peak in the state of Kentucky is up here at Lynch, one of the largest mines.
Okay.
McKee, the county seat of Jackson County. Jackson County population, 12,466. Area square miles, 346. Rank, 49th. Jackson County is located in the 5th Congressional District.
We're standing across the street from the Jackson County Courthouse. The county seat is McKee, Kentucky. To my right, we have Mayor Jack Gabbard, who has graciously offered to answer some questions for us about the area. Mayor, what can you tell us about the county of Jackson? Who was it named after?
It was formed in 1852, and it was formed from a part of the adjoining counties of Clay and Laurel, Rockcastle, and Madison counties. And really, there's not much history that we know about Jackson County until the early 1920s. And then there was a senator by the name of N.U. Bond that bought a major portion of the county and land rights for the majority of the county. And the Bond Foley Lumber Company was formed, and they came in here and built railroads even into here. We don't have any now, but they built railroads in then and in most of the county. And they pretty well cleaned the county of all the timber at that time. And then when they moved out in the early 30s, and then I guess probably some coal mining began, in which still is quite a bit of coal in this county. And in 1882, let's see, that would make 6 years ago we had our centennial. I guess it was in 1882. Then the county seat was established and was at the mouth of Bill's Branch, and it's the McKee, of course. And it became incorporated in 1882. That's the date I was referring to there about the centennial. And they built the courthouse was the first building built in the city. There wasn't even any houses here, but they established, the population was so sparse that they just had to start somewhere. So they started at the mouth of what they call Bill's Branch, built the courthouse, and up through until this time, it's just gradually grown, mostly agriculture at first. Then there's was and still is some mining. We have some limestone quarries that are still operating in the county too. Tobacco is one of our major crops. We do have some factories now, small factories, and in the county, about 3 or 4. And this spring we'll be having an opening house for a larger factory over here at the Jackson County Industrial Park. Mid-South Electric have almost completed their building, and it's going to hire up to some 500 people, which is a major impact on our county. Of course, things that have carried us this far, probably our most important things, are the Jackson County RECC, which serves all the adjoining counties, is located here. The People's Rural Telephone, which serves a couple of adjoining counties, is located here. And that pretty well sums up the major things and facts about our county. We do have, I didn't mention, but we have this is a beautiful county as far as as nature is concerned. We're if you look on the maps where it shows the green section that shows the Daniel Boone Forest, you'll notice that 90% of Jackson County is colored green, and it is the the Daniel Boone Forest. We have some beautiful trails, and we have some. The Forest Service has some picnic areas that are out in the wilderness. They're not roadside type things. You can camp at them, and there are no houses inside or anything that looks like this day and time's modern conveniences. We're proud of those.
Okay, great. Because we wanted to ask each county what could people come through and see to promote tourism, just to come through. Do you know what a rough estimate what the population is in the county?
12,000 and something.
Okay.
And I was talking about the industry a while ago. We have a lot of crafts, a lot of people that are little private industries, you might call them, but we have people who are really gifted at needlework. We have crafts. We have a Kentucky Woodcraft up here just in the edge of town that makes walnut products. It serves probably the whole United States. I don't know what their market is. And we do have something that's unique. We have the only Laurie Ashley factory in the United States. It's out of London, England. I think those that have followed the news and the papers in this state saw where our governor came down and cut the ribbon for that this past fall. We're proud of that, and it's enlarging. So things are really looking up for our county, which has been economically depressed for many years.
That's good. Are there any special events that we're also trying to get people to come in for, festivals or particular events through the year in each county? Is there something in particular that your county has annually?
Yes, we have a Jackson County Homecoming each fall on Labor Day weekend, and it's a major event as far as our county is concerned. We have a parade and the whole thing with the show and entertainment. It's a 2-day event, and right now we're in the process of beginning a spring festival, which will be held this year on May the 23rd, Memorial Day weekend. And it's just in the groundwork, but it's coming along good. We will be having it.
Okay.
Nicholasville, the county seat of Jessamine County. Jessamine County population, 28,593. Area square miles, 175. Rank, 113th. Jessamine County is located in the 5th Congressional District.
Mr. Cannon.
Okay. Ms. Cannon, what can you tell us about the formation of the county?
Well, the county was formed from Fayette County in 1798. The first government was organized at the Fisher Rice House, or Tavern, just north of Nicholasville.
Okay. How did it get its name, Jessamine?
Well, there's two stories about it. One of them is from the flower that grows on the bank of Jessamine Creek. The other is from a young girl who was sitting by the side of the creek, and an Indian killed her. And of course, we kind of like that story, and we accept it. And Jessamine County is the smallest county in the state, and it was the only county named for a woman.
Okay. What other historical information do you have about Jessamine County?
Well, the first tavern was Mingo Tavern, and it was located up here on the lot where the jail is now. And it was operated by Benjamin Netherlands, the hero of the Battle of Blue Licks. And then we have Shalmere in Jessamine County, which was noted for its beauty. It was owned by Colonel Meade, David Meade, and he lived there in 1796 to 1832, I believe it was. And he was known for his hospitality. He had many famous people to visit him there. Aaron Burr was one, Joseph Crockett, Henry Clay, Blennerhassett, Andrew Jackson, several other generals. Lafayette, I guess, visited there too. Oh, I don't think he did. Let's see what else. And we also have the home of William Price down on the Clear Creek Pike, who was had the first celebration for the 4th of July in west of the Alleghenies. He had 40 veterans there for that day to spend the day with him.
Great. When was the courthouse built?
1878 and remodeled in 1964.
Okay.
Cape Nelson was it's been there a long time. It was there during the Civil War and was named for a Civil War general, Captain Nelson. And had that Fort Bramlett was down there. There's just remnants of it left now. And Cap took it over. That is the Appalachian, what are they called? Appalachian. Anyhow, they call Cap. And they took it over and tried to make jobs for the people. And but the flood washed them out. We even had a post office established down there. And they were planning to make something with the distillery, a museum or something, and of course the fire here a year or two ago destroyed all the interior of the distillery. And of course, Jessamine County is noted for we think it is, the garden spot of the state, because we have the beautiful Palisades of the Kentucky River, the beautiful rolling hills, and the rich limestone soil, which is good for race horses and whiskey. The spring water is so good for the whiskey industry. And of course we had a big distillery down there at one time. And my father happened to be one of the men who worked there. He was the yeast maker. And those times they didn't have the yeast that they have. I mean, they have scientific way of doing it now. But he just had to do it the old-fashioned way of taking the mash and making the doney, and he had to keep it a certain temperature. And they only operated in the spring of the year. Well, Nicholasville, did I tell you, Nicholasville got its name from General George Nicholas. And he attended the Constitution conventions in Danville, and he is thought that he helped to write the Constitution of Kentucky. And he was a friend of John Metcalf, who was one of the who helped to establish Nicholasville. And John Metcalf also established the Bethel University down on the Handys Bend Road, which was very important at that time.
Barberville, the county seat of Knox County. Knox County population, 30,218. Area square miles, 388. Rank, 35th. Knox County is located in the 5th Congressional District.
Okay, we're standing across the street from the Knox County Courthouse. Barberville, Kentucky is the county seat. To my right, we have Mr. Saul Warren, who's a local historian, and we're going to ask him some questions about the county. First question, how did Knox County get formed and when?
How did it get formed and when? Well, it was formed and it was passed by the legislature in 1799 to become effective in June 1800. And we had our first court meeting in June 23rd, 1800 at the home of John Logan on Richland Creek right here in Knox County. And how it became to be formed, now we used to be, all of us was Virginia. as you know, before Kentucky became a state. Well, this was old Lincoln County, Virginia, before Knox County was created in 1800. And before that, it was Lincoln County, and one of the three originals of Kentucky. So when they decided to make Knox County, they cut practically all of the Upper Cumberland Valley from Lincoln County and made Knox County.
Great. How did it get its name? How did it get Knox County?
Well, it's named for General Henry Knox, who was a right-hand friend of George Washington. He was the great artilleryman of George Washington's colonial army in the War for Independence, the Revolutionary War. And General Henry Knox is the man that Knox County was named for, and we're proud of that.
Okay. What can you tell us about the courthouse itself? It's obvious that this isn't the original courthouse. When was this built, and what happened to the ones prior to it?
This one you're looking at it back of us here was built in 1961 and 62. Now the old original courthouse before that was a much more of a colonial type courthouse, and it was built in 1875. And of course, they wrecked the old courthouse and tore it down, and in so doing, they, lost a lot of records. I would have much rather they would have kept the old courthouse and made for us a historic library, public library, and museum, a place to keep and house all of our own old records, because Knox County is the oldest historic county in this area and had at its base right here all of the original old antique records of the whole Upper Cumberland Valley. So you can see that we lost a lot of heritage when they tore down the old courthouse. I would have loved to seen it stand, and the new courthouse should of course been built on a 2-acre tract somewhere, and where a parking area put to it where we could all pull up by it and get out and do business and come on back. But that's the way the new courthouse got here.
Okay. What about some other things of history that we don't know that you could share with us?
Well, of course, Knox County, when it was created, I will continue with this, it embraced nearly all of the Upper Cumberland Valley and reached down to the Rockcastle River, and from there back to the Cumberland Mountains, including Cumberland Gap. At that time, it embraced all of what is now Knox County, all of Laurel County, and all of Whitley County, and all of Harlan County, and all of Bell County. So you can see it was a wide, extensive area when it was created. That's the reason why I said at the base over here we had all the historic records for this whole area. So now, some other historical events that took place was the building of the first house in Kentucky on the Cumberland River, just 5 miles below Barberville. And that happened in 1750 by Dr. Thomas Walker. Dr. Thomas Walker came to this area, explored this area for the Laurel Land Company of Virginia in that year, 1750. And he selected the area south of here, southwest of here on the Cumberland River, and there he constructed the first house in Kentucky, planted the first corn crop and the first peach orchard in the whole state, and spent more than 60 days in southeast Kentucky exploring what was to be future Kentucky. So that's how we got the first house in Kentucky. Now, after Knox County was created, we come to be the base, the legal base. So it was from here that we had all the legal talent to go out from this area into the surrounding areas. And by that, we had 2 governors to spring up here. First, I would say Governor James D. Black. He used to live on North Main Street, just around the corner here, and he was governor of the State House in 1919. Then we had another governor, Governor Flem D. Sampson, and we're looking at Sampson Hill over here, just in front. You don't see it, but it's over this way, and that hill is named for him. Now, he served as governor from Knox County and for the state of Kentucky, 1927 to 31. He not only was governor, but he was judge of the Court of Appeals, and he was circuit judge for many years. Speaking of Governor Black, we had a Democrat and Republican. Governor Black was Democrat, Governor Sampson Republican, so we divided it up like that. Now we have produced one other governor that grew up here in Knox County and went away to Missouri. And he became governor of Missouri in 1872 to 74, and his name was Silas Woodson. Silas Woodson, and we're proud of him too. General Grant Hotel, the Eve Hotel it was then, but on North Main Street right out here, General Grant stayed all night here in 1864, January 1864, and of course every time I pass by the place I kind of see his footprints out there, although there is really nothing visible to tell people that General Grant stayed all night here, and that 3 or 4 governors that we had to go out from this area, they used to walk these same streets here. We need to get people interested in enough, the historical background of the county in order to rebuild, or at least put a replica or something up to give people to know that great men at least walked these streets and lived here and worked here. We have just down the river about 3 or 4 miles. Some call it 4 miles, some call it 5. And there we have the Dr. Thomas Walker State Park. And there we have a replica of the first house that was built in Kentucky. And all the other things that go with the park, although we don't have overnight accommodations at that park, I would like very much so to see that to be done so that the tourists and the travelers and the people coming to our area could at least stay overnight at the Dr. Thomas Walker Park, and by this they could go back home and tell their grandchildren that say, wow, I slept last night where Dr. Thomas Walker slept in 1750. And that would be great if they could do that. Another thing we need at that park is a museum. And with the Daniel Boone Festival, as we have it here in Barbourville, we put it on every year. It's a historic thing in commemoration of Daniel Boone, blazing the Wilderness Road, or blazing the Daniel Boone Trail, later the Wilderness Road. We've got one of the most complete and unique antique collections in this whole area, or we did have, I'll say it like that. We do need a place to house all of our old antiques and antique records, and the Dr. Thomas Walker would be a beautiful place for the state to look into the possibility of establishing a museum down there. Rehearsing just a few minutes of a couple of very prominent figures that have gone out and made history in the world from Knox County, and one of those men are Samuel F. Miller, who used to have law offices right around the corner here, and this man practiced law and lived in Knox County and went away to the state of Iowa later. And in 1862, Samuel F. Miller was appointed by Abraham Lincoln to be a member of the Supreme Court. And there he was and served as Associate Justice of the Supreme Court until 1890 when he died. Now, one other prominent figure that came up through our ranks here and through Knox County was Joseph Eve. Now, a lot of people don't know it or don't realize it, but Texas was a republic one time, and it did not belong to the United States. It was its own. So we had right here the first man and the first ambassador to the Republic of Texas, and that was Joseph E. Went from Barbourville here to represent the interests of the United States to the Republic of Texas in 1841. Before Texas became a state, and after it had been liberated probably from Spain. So our our county has a lot of history behind it, and it needs to be looked into. I would like to see local committees appointed to revise all of our history and to, to at least get things visible where the tourists and where people come in here to visit our county, and especially so since the Cumberland Gap is going to have the tunnel finished this year probably, and we're going to have more tourists coming up and down this highway over here, and they would just love to come off of that highway over here to see where Dr. Thomas Walker walked and where Governor Sampson walked, where Governor James D. Black was. They like to see where all these men walked, worked, lived, and stayed, and lived and died.
Okay. There is one question I forgot to ask you, and I want to make sure we get this in. You've written a book, and I'd like for you to tell us just a little bit about it.
Yes, that's the history of Knox County, Kentucky. It was written by me and published by the Daniel Boone Festival here in Barbourville in 1976. That was the year of the bicentennial, the national bicentennial. And we just happened to, I just happened to have the manuscript there at the right time, at the right place, and they were looking for something to do as a bicentennial project, and it just fit the case.
Great.
So that's the only history that Knox County ever had, and it took us 176 years to get that history. And I often say, well, why did the professionals leave it to me? I don't know, but I'm certainly glad they did.